Doris heard that it was bed 1, she immediately realized that he was talking about her father, so she blurted out and asked, "Hello, may I ask about the patient in Ward 1? What was the result of the test?" The man looked at Doris hesitantly, then at Director Chen, not knowing whether he should continue. Director Chen hurriedly urged, "What is the result? Just say it, don't dawdle." The person hurriedly said, "That's it. The laboratory first found out from the blood of the patient in Ward 1 excessive mercury and then sent the blood sample to the laboratory of the Judicial Department for further inspection of toxic substances. The result was a large amount of mercury dichloride detected in the sample." "What?" Director Chen exclaimed. "Dichloride mercury? Determined to be mercury dichloride?" "Yes." The person hurriedly said, "The police suspected that someone had poisoned them, so they are ready to file a case. It is estimated that they will come soon." Doris was shocked and blurted out. Said, "Director Chen, what is mercury dichloride?" Director Chen explained, "Mercury dichloride is a highly toxic inorganic substance. This substance is extremely toxic. It takes only 1 mg per kilogram of body weight. It can reach the semi-lethal dose. An 80 kg adult male only needs 80 mg. Doris asked, "What is the semi-lethal dose?" Director Chen said, "The semi-lethal dose is the medical and chemical toxicity monitoring standard. For example, if 100 mice are used for the toxicity test of mercury dichloride, when the oral administration exceeds 1 mg per kilogram for a specified period of time, 50 mice will die. This amount is called a semi-lethal dose." Doris exclaimed, "This kind of substance only needs tens of milligrams to kill people?" Director Chen nodded and said with a grimace, "This kind of thing is extremely toxic, especially to the kidneys. It's like paraquat is extremely harmful to the lungs. There is almost no cure." Doris suddenly became nervous and blurted out, "Why would my father take such toxic substances? No one in our family has ever been exposed to such highly toxic chemicals." Director Chen said seriously, "Since the police are all to file a case for investigation, it is very likely that someone deliberately poisoned him." "Poisoned?" Doris said in confusion, "My father has been teaching and educating people for most of his life. The whole world is full of peaches and plums, and he has received countless honors. Personality and teacher ethics are both impeccable, so have never made enemies with others. Who will do such a bad hand against him?" Director Chen hurriedly said, "Doris, this kind of thing is useless to ponder on just by speculation. I would suggest you rely on the police to investigate deeply to find the murderer behind the scenes." As he said, the door of the office was pushed open, and several police officers in police uniforms walked in with solemn expressions. One of the middle-aged men with the Chinese character's face walked in front, came directly in front of Director Chen, and said, "Hello, I am Ruslan, the deputy captain of the Orus Hill Criminal Police Brigade. We received a report from the inspection division of your unit and now suspect that it is expensive. A patient named Simon Wang in the hospital is very likely to be poisoned. Is it convenient for us to see Simon's family?" Director Chen immediately pointed to Doris and said, "Captain Ruslan, this is Doris, Simon's daughter." "Madam." Ruslan was a little surprised, and immediately put away his surprised expression, and said seriously, "Hello Ms. Doris, this is Ruslan. How is your father's situation now?" Doris hurriedly said, "Captain Ruslan, my father is in very bad condition now. His kidneys are failing rapidly in a short period of time, and his life is in danger. Please be sure to find out the murderer who poisoned my father." Ruslan nodded very seriously, and said, "Ms. Doris, can you please help us in this regard? Does your father have any enemies in ordinary terms? Or is there anything with him? Has anyone ever had a financial dispute with him?" Doris shook her head and said, "My father has been conscientious in teaching and educating people for so many years. He is also very willing to help others at work. No one has ever had any conflicts." Ruslan asked again, "Then has your father eaten any weird food recently, or come into contact with something weird?" Doris continued to shake her head. "It seems that it hasn't happened. Everything was normal before he became ill." Ruslan then asked, "Do you usually live with your father?" Doris nodded. "Yes, we live together." Ruslan continued to ask, "Then beside you and your father, who else lives with you?" Doris said. Me, my father and mother, the three of us live together. Captain nodded, paused, and asked, any servant who works at your house? No, Doris said. I want to find a nanny for them, but my parents have lived independently all their lives, and they are not used to being served by others. In addition, they are now in their 50s and can take care of themselves, so they have never looked for a nanny. Ruslan asked, neither you nor your mother has any problems with your bodies? Doris shook her head. No, Ruslan nodded and said, you are a family of 3 living together, and you and your mother don't have any problems, so basically it can be inferred that it's not the food or water in your home. While talking, he asked again, Ms. Doris, I need you to recall carefully. During the period before your father showed signs of illness in his body, did he go out for dinner alone or with his friends? Doris thought about it carefully and said seriously, neither. Before my father had physical problems, he had been reading at home because of the winter vacation, and he had hardly gone out, so he never went out with others. Ruslan couldn't help frowning. That is really strange. According to the test data, your father has a large amount of mercury dichloride in his body. This highly toxic substance can enter the body through the mouth and nose. It may also enter the body through the skin. But our experts speculate that such a large toxic dose may take a long time if it depends on the skin alone, so the most likely entry is through the mouth and nose, and oral administration is the most likely way into the body. But, as you mentioned situation, your father is unlikely to be exposed at home to contaminated food and water. Nevertheless, he has not been out for a meal or drink. Well, it might be a little tricky to figure out where he was poisoned.